Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hit Your Numbers. This week we've got another back-to-back for you. James is going to be covering pipeline bloat and the path to success. So let's get on with the podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Hit Your Numbers podcast. Today I'm on my own. I've been seeing something a lot recently and wanted to talk about it and wanted to just really focus on it rather than having a guest on today, and I just wanted to go kind of deep into this one thing. One thing I want to talk to you about is pipeline bloat. So it's like the 14th of May as I'm recording this, and something we typically see when we get to like the halfway stage of the quarter. So if you're running a fiscal year from January through to December, you're halfway through Q2, and one of the things that we're seeing with the organizations that we're talking to about partnering up is part of their problem is in disguise is pipeline bloat. Okay, what do I mean by pipeline bloat? Sales reps push a lot of deals to next quarter, and when you start Q2 or Q3 or whatever quarter it is, you open up the forecast and it looks really good. It's quite bloated. Yeah, it looks like you got 4-6 times pipeline coverage. And then what happens is you get to halfway through the quarter and you look again and it's significantly less. Yes, you might have closed a couple of deals. You've lost a load because it was actually rollover noise from last quarter. And now you've applied a bit of pressure and that stuff's gone. And some of the stuff's been kicked out to next quarter when you've asked your reps some hard questions. So I want to talk to you about pipeline bloat today. I've just got some notes in front of me that I've taken down from some of the conversations we've been having with VPs of sales and CROs over the last probably 14 days. So a few things that we see when we're kind of in the discovery and scoping phase for our transformation programs. So weak qualification. Very, very few reps have a qualification framework or methodology that they align to, like a MEDDIC or anything like that. And the ones that do, most of them tell us that it's not used effectively, which is a lot of the time why they want to kind of partner with us to help them redeploy MEDDIC, for example, and then reinforce it and drive behavior change. Can't remember what the stat was from some of the data that we looked at recently, but it was like 85% of reps have no real formal methodology that they align to around qualification and execution. So that's obviously one problem. If you haven't got like a real strict guideline and common language of what a qualified opportunity truly looks like, and your reps are trained and coached on that playbook, then no shock you're going to fill the pipeline with noise, like just naturally, right? So that's one of the observations. Another observation that I have written down here is a lot of managers find themselves coaching too late. So pipeline reviews happen when deals are stuck. They basically hit a dashboard and it's like, this deal's been stuck in this stage for so and so long. And then they start coaching the rep. The manager starts inspecting the deal, probably when it's a bit too late. And then they're like, well, how do we bring this thing back to life? It probably was never alive in the first place. And even if it was, like, it's hard to resurrect something when a rep's done several bad things consistently, right? So that was another thing that we've been observing. Another thing we've been observing is around the sales stages in the pipeline. A lot of them are like your default ones that you get when you buy HubSpot or Salesforce. Prospecting, qualified, demonstration, proposal, contracting, close one. A lot of those are really not aligned to the buyer's journey. And also, a lot of them aren't actually gated. So I was in an office the other week, and we got the whiteboard out, and I drew their sales process on the whiteboard. And I asked the rep, "Where do you think you are in the sales process?" And threw the board marker at him, and he stepped up and drew a line, suggesting he's like 80% of the way down the sales process. And then we asked him like 2 or 3, just like really simple qualification questions, and we realized that he was more like 15-20% down the sales process. And that's just because we're almost forcing reps to drive next steps. Most of them are low value next steps, which is why reps struggle, but we force them to drive next steps, and they move the deal through the funnel in Salesforce or HubSpot, whatever it is you're using. But the buyer actually isn't there. You're there, the buyer isn't there, or you think you're there. Your sales stages might say you are, but your buyer's not really there, and then as a result, you wonder why deals slip. It was never forecast ready. You just put it into the forecast. It was in a specific stage. So yeah, that's another thing that we see. And then finally, and this is like a confidence thing, and I'm a big believer that capability builds confidence, but there's a huge fear of disqualification. Like we say to our reps all of the time, you should be disqualifying X number of opportunities. I think it should be in discovery anywhere between like 50 and 30% of those discovery conversations should be disqualified just based on reality. Like your reps are probably not winning 70% of their deals. So why are they qualifying in almost 100% of the people they speak to? It's kind of mental really when you think about it. But if you ask your reps now, can you send me over call recordings of you frame like push pull, you pushing the prospect away at the end of the discovery call, suggesting doesn't sound like this is a big deal right now. There's a lot of pain and there's a big impact that's happening, and see if the prospect pulls themselves back in. They're just not doing any of this. They're just trying to book the demo because they're KPI to do that, or they're told to do it. And surprise, surprise, you start to just fill the pipeline with noise and then it bloats, right? So yeah, a lot of the things that companies are getting wrong, they feel like, yeah, well, we're not winning enough, so let's just chuck more in. The CRM, the fields, like putting MEDDIC 8 letters, putting those 8 fields in. A lot of the time the stuff is outdated. It's not actually accurate. It's there just to please somebody. In fact, sometimes we see the same stuff almost word for word copied and pasted across 3 or 4 opportunities, which, tells us everything right. Reps don't really see much value in it. Leaders aren't really inspecting it. So again, they're not using the tools effectively. Thinking pipeline reviews will improve forecasting. I mean, most of the reviews that we join, pipeline reviews, they're ultimately like 5 to 10 deals, status updates done in 30 to 45 minutes. Like instead of just having, right, let's talk about one deal. Let's go deep and wide. What do we know? What don't we know? Where are we winning? Where are we losing? All of the kind of value pieces that we could get into. I'm not going to get into it today, but they just don't do that. They just focus on real quick status updates, stuff that they could probably just get from CRM. But instead they waste everybody's time. And the rep gets nothing from it. The rep learns nothing from it. They're great coaching opportunities, but we waste them. The sales leader doesn't really get much from them other than they can tell their boss, I guess. I've done the deal reviews and, James is nowhere near on track and we just put him in a pit, but that doesn't help anyone, right? So here's a couple of things that may be practical things that you can do today as you're listening to this to start to fix it. So one is around like being really, really strict on the opportunity criteria, okay? Like there has to be, for example, clear business pain. This person must have a sense of urgency or want, need and desire to solve that pain, and they have to be the pain center. This person has to feel it the most. Like they must themselves want to solve it, i.e. they could become a champion. They will drive consensus. They'll advocate for us. They'll have some personal win if we are successful, okay? We want some clarity on how they would buy. What would that process potentially look like? What would the decision criteria be like? Again, go and ask your reps right now if you're listening to this, if they've got a demo coming up today or tomorrow, ask them, hey, can you give me the list of requirements that we've captured from the customer that's going to get them to their desired future state? And can you let me know which ones we influenced and backed with customer stories, evidence, and metrics? Like, I guess you will struggle. And if they give you any, I can almost guarantee they're going to just give you generic made up stuff. There'll be jargon that your company talks about and the customer doesn't actually talk like that, and ask them for the recording. And I just guarantee that's not happening, right? But again, we're not really vetting this stuff. So like being really, really strict on the exit criteria. Like you cannot move from stage 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 without having evidence that something has been achieved. Okay, not just documented, but achieved. The other thing would be auditing the quality of their discovery conversations, their demos. They're not just doing generic cookie cutter calls, they're personalized to the organization. Whenever I've built teams and we've seen high win rates, we've done really good discovery and then we've personalized the rest of the buying experience to their current state and where they're trying to get to, their desired future state. We've taken everything we learned into discovery and we've continued to discover through the sales process, and we've aligned it back to that specific organization. They feel heard, they feel understood, they feel valued. Our business case is a lot stronger, which means then when they go and communicate it to the economic buyer, the board, whoever it is, everything feels like a no-brainer. It makes sense versus I know you told us this, but we want you to buy this. I know it's not really connected, but that's what I've got to sell you, and I'm under pressure. You can see where we're kind of going, right? So get really, really strict on the exit criteria, get the sales stages, get clarity, get a document on this, right? So Google Doc, PDF, whatever it is, literally, this could be transformational. Sales stages aligned back to the buyer's journey. The steps the reps have to kind of follow in those stages. And by the way, don't do them as like meetings. That's just ridiculous because you'll end up having a discovery, a demo, and a proposal stage. And don't be afraid to have like multiple steps in one stage. Like in the technical validation stage, or whatever you end up calling it, there could be like a champion demo where we get validation from our champion that they believe we can solve the problem. And then there might be a demo with their team. There might be a proof of concept. You don't have to have a stage for every individual event or whatever. Like you can do multiple things in one stage and then have really, really, really quality exit criteria. These are the 3 things or 5 things that we not only have to be able to write down into the CRM, but we have to be able to demonstrate evidence that they've actually happened to make sure that we're not moving a deal ahead like too soon when it's not actually ready. So just something to maybe take away is just get that document down, give it to your people, and then train them on it, and then quiz them. Ask them to fill in a Google form, or when you bump into them to the corridor and be like, hey, what's the exit criteria to go from stage 2 to 3? See if they can give it to you. And if they can't, then you need to sit them down and go back through it again. They should know this stuff. This stuff is really important. Otherwise, you're always, if you're a VP listening to this or a CRO, you're going to be in the same situation I was when I stepped up and no one gave me this training or advice, like most of us. You're just going to be going through the forecast throughout the quarter. It looks good, and then you start pacing away from goal. And then every week with your boss, the board or the investors, you're just having the same naff conversations over and over and over again. Oh, a lot of the deals have slipped. They didn't slip. They weren't ready to go into the forecast. They should never have been in the pipeline in the first place. They weren't either ready to go in there or they weren't qualified. So yeah, just something to be mindful of. And also, like, think about the capability in your team. We've been doing a lot of in-person kickoffs recently with teams large and small, 20 reps on the team, 100 reps on the team. And something we've been doing recently is asking everybody to stand up and then asking everybody to stay standing if they have a degree in B2B sales. And obviously everybody sits down. Then we ask them to stand back up again and we say, hey, look, no worries. Stay standing if you've had formal sales training. I don't mean you've read a book or your boss gave you a book and you couldn't be asked to read it, or you attended a 2-hour Zoom training, or you went to a 1-day boot camp, like a proper transformation program where it went on for a while and those skills were taught and properly bedded in and you were certified that you were doing it consistently at the highest level. And like 5%, 3%, 2% of people stay standing. So like a lot of the ways that we can actually fix this problem around the forecast, the revenue goal, the tough conversations that you're having with the board, your boss, the investors, is getting really strict on pipeline compliance. These are the stages, these are the steps, these are the exit criteria. Build it into HubSpot or Salesforce so a rep physically cannot move a deal from one stage to the other. If you're not able to do that, then every time a deal does move forward, just go in and inspect it and go into Salesforce or HubSpot and look at that deal, look at the compliance document, and then pull reps up and say, hey, what are we doing? We signed off, this is the process, and we're still pushing deals forward, right? But then you have to train your people. Another thing, actually, as I talk about this, is when we kick off programs, I usually ask the sales leader, can you send me over like a 1-pager or the document where you document forecasting? So what are your forecast categories? Do you using commit, best case, pipeline, whatever they are? Most likely everyone uses like different ones. Upside. Can you send over the document and the definition in like really clear, easy to understand terms? Like, what does it actually mean? What does commit mean for your business? What does best case mean for your business? What does pipeline mean for your business? And then when and why should a sales rep enroll a deal into that forecast category? Is it done by stage? Is it done by durate? Like, what is it done by? Like, something has to happen, there has to be evidence. Like, when does a rep know they should put that deal in there? Most of the time, people just go into the CRM and go, forecast call tomorrow. I need to update the forecast. I'll put that one in commit. I think I'll put that one in best case. Like, that is literally what happens. Go sit next to your people, watch them do it. Yeah, that's another good exercise. I would sit down next to my reps for like a couple of hours. But look, I just want to like observe what, especially reps that are struggling. I just want to observe what you're doing, because there might be a better way to do it. I want to see if I can free up some time, make you more efficient, more effective in your role. Obviously, I always take this stuff back to what they want to achieve. Is it earn more money? Is it promotion? Is it they just want an easy life? Like, what do they personally want? And then I frame everything. Okay, I want to figure out how to make that part, help us realize that thing that you're looking for. So I just want to observe you. Just watch people. And it's crazy, like, what they'll do. And they'll even do it while you're watching them, because they don't know no other way, right? So, yeah. If you're interested, I wrote a playbook at the beginning of the year. It should be on the website, Sales Readiness Playbook. I talk about a lot of this stuff, like pipeline bloat, poor documentation and clarity on sales stages, steps, exit criteria. A lot of it's talking about getting reps ready, sales ready, to go out and execute and run a sales process. And a lot of time, when you actually just ask very simple questions to your team, they can't answer them. They can't answer what the problem is that company's facing. Again, we was doing a training today, and we're just trying to build a hypothesis talk track, and we're just saying, look, this is a job title, this is the type of company you're engaging with. What's a problem statement they're probably going to give you? Just couldn't give it to us. And then when we, helped them come up with it, what would be the business impact of that problem? Struggle to get there. Could easily talk about how they'll solve the problem, because we teach our teams the product and the capability, and we make sure they can do demos and things like that. But when it comes to discovery, we just say, look, there's a page in Notion, or there's this Word document. It's got like 10 questions on it. Go and ask those. If it was that easy, none of us would have this problem, right? So go and talk to your reps. Go and sit down with them in a one-to-one basis. Don't do it in front of all of their peers. We're not here to like humiliate people, put people on the spot, but sit down with them and in a one-on-one, just start asking some questions. What do you think the problem is, the biggest problem is that we solve? What do you think causes that problem to exist? If the company doesn't solve it, what do you think is going to be the business impact? And nothing fluffy. Like if the CRO is the economic buyer, what is the CRO going to feel really uncomfortable and nervous going and talking to the board about if they don't fix it? For the chief HR officer, what would they dread going into a board meeting and again giving bad news around for the second quarter in a row? Do they know? Can they answer those questions, right? So first start there. One of the things that we ask for when we're running a discovery training program is, can you send us over some documentation around some of the problems that you solve and what you believe to be the root cause of the problem, and then we will use that in the training to make sure that your reps really align to it. And they can't send us that either. And a lot of the time they don't know what the problem is that they solve for. I mean, it sounds crazy, right? But that's just the reality. But these companies, they all have loads and loads and loads of sales tools. Like, I think I say this example all the time, but I was on a call with a rep not too long ago, and he was sharing his screen, and I could barely see his Google search bar because he had so many Chrome extensions, and probably had more sales tools behind the scenes as well, right? But he was telling me the team are really struggling to book meetings at the moment. They're really behind on pipeline, and no one's hitting their revenue goal, and the conversion rates are at an all-time low. It's taking twice as long to close deals. Deals are not growing in terms of their size, and they're hardly winning any. But they got loads of sales tools. They got great offices, amazing offices. But it all comes back down to capability. We talk about nobody gets a degree in B2B sales, and we laugh, but it's true. Like, I stumbled into this profession. It took me 8 years to get any formal sales training, and it was 2 days and wasn't really reinforced. So the majority of us forgot it pretty quick and then went back to our old ways, that just bad habits that we picked up and had to learn the hard way, right? It doesn't have to be that way. We can literally just train our people on build a playbook, design the playbook, build the playbook, train them on the playbook, coach them on the playbook, and then hold them accountable to executing the playbook. You got to make the time for sure. You got to obviously hire the right people. You need coachable people. You need adaptable people. Some of the challenges that we run into with the teams that we work with is the sales reps just can't, they won't change. They either say to me, they don't say this like sometimes like outright, but in other words, dude, I'm tenured. I've been in sales for 7 years. I don't need to change. They're usually the people that have the least amount of pipeline, and they are a country mile away from hitting their revenue goal. And then you look at their CV and they typically sit in the AE or BDM role, have done for 7 years. They're on the same pay and they just go from role to role every, 6 or 7 months, but they won't change because they're tenured, and time in seat or time in role does not equal capability. Capability is built, like skills are developed. You have to acquire the skills, you have to get the knowledge, and then you have to be able to execute the knowledge. And sometimes you have to be able to undo those bad behaviors from people. And some people can do it. We see it a lot. Some people that are really behind, they got some bad behaviors. We can undo them, but they are really coachable. They're adaptable. They're curious. They're intelligent. They're accountable. They've got a growth mindset. They're obsessed with being the best. They want to be great. They're just really struggling. They just need some help. And then there's other people that can't be asked to turn up to the training. They turn up to the sessions, their camera's off, they never come off mute. You ask them a question, they say they can do it. And then when you put them on the spot, they're like, oh, we don't, no, that's not how we do it. That wouldn't work for us doing it that way. Yeah, other people on the team will then go and do it and get the result. So, again, it comes back to having the right people in your team and then training and developing them and holding them accountable to the playbook and not having 10, 15, 20, 30 ways that you go to market. So anyway, I don't want to turn into a bit of a rant, but I guess the luxury that we have is we get to work with lots of different teams, and small and large, in the UK, throughout Europe, in North America, in lots of different industries. And this is just one of the things that we see in the organizations that come to us from listening to this podcast or being in our newsletter or following us on LinkedIn or whatever. And they just can't go on any longer. They've tried everything else. They've tried buying the sales tools. They've gone from SalesLoft to Gong, or they've brought in a digital sales room, or they've gone from Zoom Info to Lusher or whatever it might be. They try adding all of these different tools. They bring in proposal software. They bring in these demo sites where it does like automated demos and things like that, and they're just not working. And then when you ask the question around like training, coaching, development, what are the top skill gaps that you're seeing across some of your reps? They don't know. They don't do skill gap analysis. They don't do win-loss or slip reviews. They just keep putting the targets up every quarter and then just keep driving up the KPIs because the reps can't increase the win rate or deal size or reduce time to close. So the only way to fix it is by saying, I need you to make more calls. I need you to send more emails. I need you to send more LinkedIn messages. I need you to do more of this. And more doesn't equal more. And then just this vicious cycle. So I guess I'm blessed that we get to work with some unbelievable sales leaders that don't have an ego, that they want to fix the team. They want their team to be successful. They care about their people. They know their people are going to help them obviously build their career and earn loads of money. And they're prepared to do whatever it takes. But a lot of people, say to us when we do reach out to them, I wouldn't bring somebody else in to help solve this problem. But 2 of their people have reached out to us on their AE team to sign up for our sales university, and they're funding it themselves out of their own pocket. And when we ask them, what made you do it? They're like, we're all missing our target. We don't get any training. So that doesn't make any sense to me, but I guess those people will one day eventually figure it out, or they'll just get sick and tired of it and then move into a different role. But yeah, anyway, key takeaway from today, build out a document that clearly describes, and be clear, not clever. Like, again, we see loads of comp plans that are overly complex, that need to be, and this should be easy to follow. What are the sales stages aligned to the buyer? What are the steps that we have to execute in those stages? And then what's the exit criteria that requires evidence to be captured to say, hey, we've done 1, 2, and 3. And if we've done it, then we know we can move to the next stage. It's not about being like annoying or like trying to micromanage. It's about telling your sellers, if we do this, we'll win. If we don't, we probably won't, and it will suck because we'll spend loads of time and effort to get this deal to this stage. We'll lose it because it was never really there to be won in the first place. And because of that, we've actually neglected these deals over here we probably could have won. But we've been so busy with everything else and spread too thin, we now can't actually advance that deal. So now we've lost momentum. Someone else has gotten an influence of decision criteria, which we now can't align with, or they've been able to build and win over the champion. So that person's now advocating for them and not really us, but we don't learn that. So we keep working that deal and then we get bad news, and you can see this like vicious cycle. So yeah, build out the documentation and then train your people on that and hold them accountable, and then start inspecting deals early. And in fact, as soon as a deal like gets into the discovery phase, just start coaching. Start asking curious, interesting questions to the AE about that deal. Have a scorecard. Have what excellent looks like in your organization, and ask them where it aligns and where maybe it doesn't. Where are the gaps that we need to close? And then help them close them. But don't just give them the answers. They have to be self-aware. So give them the scorecards, give them the playbook, give them the best practices, and say, hey, we're going to meet up in 2 days. I want you to lead the conversation. Take that deal, take this scorecard, take MEDDIC, whatever it is, and tell me where we're winning, and tell me where you're nervous, and why you think that's happening, why you feel nervous, and what's your plan. And then you do the same thing in the background. That's what I used to do when I was a VP. And then we'd meet up and we'd see how aligned we are. And if we're aligned, then we can crack on immediately. If not, then there's a massive coaching opportunity for me to say, hey, I actually see it a little bit different. Let me share how in just a second. And I ask them a couple of discovery questions to see if they can come to the realization and align with me, and maybe see it through the same lens as me. And the rep learns a lot more. They then remember when that happens next time, what did Sarah, Mike, Bob, James say to me in that deal review that time? Oh, now this is happening to me in real time. I can remember that. I can implement it live on the call with the buyer, and surprise, surprise, we drive the next step or we get the right outcome. Versus you spoon feeding people, they don't learn anything from it, so it doesn't stick, so that when they need to use it most live in an engagement, can't remember. So they just default to what they do remember, which is bad practice, and surprise, surprise, doesn't go very well. So yeah, lots of inspection. You have to force the time. We've all got plenty of time. It comes down to ruthless prioritization and being prepared to say no to things internally that are consuming your time, so that you can spend more time coaching your team and inspecting their deals. And obviously, if you are really, really, really struggling, then reach out to us and we can help you. But, start to say no more. Have tough conversations cross-functionally or managing up, and then inspect more deals, and then have this one pager of stages, steps, and exit criteria, and ask for evidence and inspect every deal that moves into into a specific stage, and do it for a while until people start to realize that you're not just going to forget about this. This is something that we have to live with now, and it's important, and you're taking it seriously, and they'll just start doing it. And recognize people and praise people. One of the things I used to do is have like a HubSpot workflow that would push a Slack notification or a Teams notification when we would have, officially qualified a champion, or we had met with an economic buyer and presented the business case, or we'd had technical validation, or we'd had confirmation from our champion that the item that we had influenced into the decision criteria had been confirmed as something really important or a must-have. Those are the things that we should be celebrating, because sometimes a deal cycle might be 90, 100, 120 days. My last org, we were selling enterprise like Amazon, huge banks, 12, 18 months, long sales cycles, takes a long time to celebrate. So you should be celebrating the milestones. So we've built the leading skill optimization platform with 400 plus sales lessons, 12 courses from prospecting all the way through to late stage deal negotiation and more, one-to-one sales coaching and AI sales assistance. And I want to give you 7 days free access to the platform. The reason I want to do this is because nobody gets a degree in B2B sales. And after training and coaching hundreds of sales reps and teams in the last 2 years, most haven't mastered critical selling skills, and it's preventing them from being promoted, earning great money, and building a great career in B2B sales. So go to the revenueenabler.com, grab a free trial, and join hundreds of salespeople that are closing their skill gaps and mastering sales. There's a link in the video description. I'm looking forward to getting you set up. Give me a shout with any questions. All right, guys, I've got a mini one for you here. I want to talk to you about path to success. This is costing account executives deals, and for some people, they don't even know it's happening. So I want to explain this for you, okay? So what is it and why you should use it? Well, let's first talk about what it isn't. It's not a traditional mutual action plan. Some organizations, some people listening to this will be using a mutual action plan. And look, they're better than not using anything. But the problem is most of the time, 90% of the time when I look at them, if not higher, 99% of the time, they end at red lines completed, contract signature done, whatever it might be, right? And that's great because from your perspective, you need to forecast the deal and you care about getting deals signed. And that's when it ends for you. The problem is for your buyer, for the champion, the economic buyer, that's when it really starts. Yes, it starts like earlier in the evaluation process, but they now need to start implementing and actually solving the problem that you're setting out to help them solve. So the reason I love path to success is you actually start to plot when they'll go live, when they'll start to get their payback, their money back, and then when will they get value. And that might be increasing the win rate, reducing their employee turnover, releasing products to market faster to, have that competitive advantage, whatever it might be. And you need to be able to demonstrate, like, if you can, in a line, in a journey, when that will happen, so that when they're looking at your business case, they're like, hey, I need to deliver this objective to the business by the end of the year. I can either spend this 100 grand on this one with you, or I can spend this 100 grand over here who's made it really clear that I'm going to get value in 3 months or 4 months. There's this big unknown with yours because there's no clarity on that. Okay. And salespeople, like our job, I talk about it in the Champion Playbook all of the time, my new book. Our job is to identify, qualify champions, sure. But our job then is to enable them to go and get kind of money created. I call it like decision enablement. These are little tools that we can use to enable economic buyers to say yes when they might say no and you guys lose a deal. So it's not a mutual action plan. It's a path to success. When should you use it? I get this question all of the time. Some people say like middle of the sales process. I'm a big fan of a lot of this stuff as early as possible. Not to like create admin for everybody, but just clarity. And it's also a great qualification tool. So if it's like, hey, Sarah, when do you need to start realizing this value by? What would that value look like? What percentages do things need to improve by? And they can't answer it. That could be an indication. It could be a red flag that it's not important. And you should maybe frame a way out and like a push-pull and see if they go for it or not. Also, our job is to obviously guide them, right? So I'm not saying like if they can't answer it, it's a dead deal. But if this was a really big problem, they would know some of this stuff because they're probably talking about it a lot in internal meetings, right? So I think get this up on screen on a discovery call. I like to break discovery calls into thirds. So the first 10 minutes is my PRI framework, problem, root cause, impact. Second, third is around like storytelling, inspiring them to change, selling the differentiation gap, connecting that back to business outcomes, like making them basically think, hey, I want to learn more. Sounds like a really good solution. And then the final third is people, process, price, conditioning, and next steps. That people and process part, this is a great tool for that because you can start to say, hey, here's a template of how other VPs of marketing typically go through the process with us and when they start to unlock value. What's wrong in here in terms of your business, or what's missing, or what should we work on together next and why? Where are the bottlenecks? That kind of stuff. I want to start qualifying, but also influencing decision process, paper process on that onboarding process so that we can start to actually bring this business case together. Because for all we know, the demo, we might get the economic buyer turn up and we're unaware of that. They just randomly accept the meeting invite 2 minutes before the meeting happens, or they just jump on the call and we're not prepared. And we want to have our best, best foot forward as many times as we physically can. Okay. So how to use it? Like I just mentioned, really, really simple. Jump on a call, share your screen, Google Doc, Word document, or if you're using some sales software for this, that as well. and just basically go through like, hey, so this is where we are today. Our goal is, as we agreed, is we want to go here next. So we're doing a demo today. The goal next is to be able to do a group demo. What do we need to achieve from your side today to make sure this is a great conversation and we're confident to move to that stage? We need to do this, this, and this. Okay, great. That's part of my plan. I'll now execute that. And at the end, I'll get validation. Should we progress to the next stage or not? That kind of thing. So you can use it to like guide you through the process. But also if there's like accountabilities, like let's say we're in that business case creation or paper process stage and there's lots of these different things that need to be done, infosec, red lines, etc. Then I'm going to jump on the call and be like, hey, last time we spoke, we're at this stage, we need to go here next. I mentioned I was going to do these 3 things. Here they are. I emailed them over this morning. You mentioned that you were going to do this 2 things and make this introduction. How did you get on with that? I didn't see an intro email hit my inbox. Were you able to find that person? And like, again, it just holds everybody true, keeps them honest, stays on the mission. And if you think about a champion, like champions want you to be successful. By nature, they have like a vested interest in your success. That might be a promotion, commission, pay rise, internal reputation. It could just mean that they get to finish work at 5 p.m. every day and go spend time with their kids or go to the gym or go play tennis or whatever it is, right? So these people are happy and prepared to jump on a call and go through this with you. They want you to be successful because they have something to gain. So don't be afraid to do this stuff. This is like elite level. If you want to stay average, completely ignore this podcast. If you want to go from an average seller where you occasionally hit target to an elite seller where you crush target every single quarter and you don't just hit it, you exceed targets and you're getting promoted, getting big pay rises, etc., then this is the 1 or 2% that you can implement every day that will make you a better seller and be more successful and have a lot more fun when you're out selling. So hope this was helpful. If you want any of this content, by the way, I teach all of this in the Sales University. There's 400 lessons across the entire sales process with AI tools, resources, enablement content, etc. So if you want a free trial, check it out for 7 days. There's absolutely no cost. And then if you do like it, there's a small fee to upgrade. And we've got hundreds of people that use it and loads of video success stories. So yeah, I hope this is a helpful episode and I look forward to speaking to you and hearing from you on a future episode. If you want us to talk about something, by the way, on these episodes, then let me know. Like I'm just talking about stuff that I'm teaching with sales organizations and with sales teams this week or over the last few weeks, and just making an assumption that everybody else wants to talk about it. If you want me to talk about cold calling next or outbound email or direct mail or running a better demo or building a better business case or implementing or using MEDDIC more effectively in your sales process to win more customers, whatever it might be, if it's about maybe, getting a new job, getting promoted, maybe if you're a manager, running a better one-to-one or onboarding your salespeople better, just send me a DM on LinkedIn or a WhatsApp. Like I'd much rather put content out that you want to listen to. So don't hesitate to reach out and be like, hey, I love the episode, love the podcast. Can we talk about this next? Can I even come on the episode with you? That'd be cool as well. If not, just send me an idea and I'll pull some content together and push out an episode for you. So yeah, look forward to seeing you in another episode of the Hit Your Numbers podcast soon. All right, thanks for listening to this episode. I've got something else I want to give you before we wrap up here. So we've built the leading skill optimization platform with 400 plus sales lessons, 12 courses from prospecting all the way through to late stage deal negotiation and more, one-to-one sales coaching and AI sales assistance. And I want to give you 7 days free access to the platform. The reason I want to do this is because nobody gets a degree in B2B sales. And after training and coaching hundreds of sales reps and teams in the last 2 years, most haven't mastered critical selling skills. And it's preventing them from being promoted, earning great money and building a great career in B2B sales. So go to the revenueenabler.com, grab a free trial and join hundreds of salespeople that are closing their skill gaps and mastering sales. There's a link in the video description. I'm looking forward to getting you set up. Give me a shout with any questions.